Hey everyone! Welcome back to this series. You probably wondered whether or not I was actually going to come back or not. I actually want to talk about that before we get underway here. So, you're probably realizing based on what you're seeing here, and, yes, this is Hellfire Citadel, but this is not the Hellfire Citadel you were probably expecting. As I mentioned to someone who asked about it in the comments recently, I am working on a couple of things to prep for showing you guys the raids in Warlords of Draenor. Most especially Hellfire Citadel from that, because soloing that on Mythic on a character that's not geared is... as well as someone who has difficult time dealing with mechanics from a couple of specific bosses in there, it's a bit of a pain. So let's just say that I've been working on prepping a character for that. I've also been working on the Pathfinder stuff for Draenor to actually unlock flying there to perhaps give a more thematic feel, like being able to fly here in Burning Crusade. I'm able to actually be like, look, behold, Hellfire Citadel from this angle up high. I also love seeing the Fell Reaver there in the background. That from this far away I can see it, show it to you, because that's how, well, that's how far away you were able to see enemies like that, big elites like that. So I decided that in the meantime, while I work on prepping for those to showcase you the raids from Warlords, I decided, you know what? Here's the thing. When I started this series, I was actually not very knowledgeable when it came to what I was talking about in regards to some of these raids. I was still unaware of other certain things that I actually did not properly talk about and misspoke of. For example, in the previous part of this series, Siege of Orgrimmar, I misspoke about the availability of the quest on Mythic. I wrote in the description I was wrong. Turns out you actually can get it in Mythic. So that's an example of one of the things I've made mistakes on talking about these raids in this series. I also didn't really do a good job in terms of presenting the quality of those as much as I should have. For example, I didn't showcase the trailer of Kel'Thuzad talking about Nox Ramus when we did our vid on Nox Ramus. I didn't show the trailer, the patch trailer for the Black Temple when I showed it to you guys. And I was not very knowledgeable about that. I've done Black Temple so many more times since I made that video, farming those Warglaves, which I have now, by the way. And I feel like if, I also didn't, the Sunwell, I didn't show the trailer where Kael'thas talks about the Sunwell. I made numerous mistakes in some of those when I should have. And the reason for that is I want to present this to you, for those of you who do watch this series. Would you like it if I redid those videos? If I redid them now, like, for example, being able to showcase the trailer before we do it, where I can be able to talk more about it now that I have more knowledge about it. I've kind of educated myself some more on some of the stuff going on in those raids and be able to show it to you guys better in terms of quality and such. Would you want me to do that, to redo those vids, to either take down the previous ones and redo it, or just upload another version of it where it's a more up-to-date or more better version of that raid? Like, would you want me to redo the Black Temple video where I actually showed the trailer of Akama talking about it, because that's such a good trailer and I wish I had shown it to you guys. So I would like to hear from you guys on that. Would you like to see me do that? In the meantime, I decided I'm going to be doing videos on some of the raids I decided to skip beforehand. And now that I know more about them, they're actually more relevant. Because back then I had this idea of, well, if it's got one boss, it obviously must not be a good raid or anything. When in fact, that's simply not the case. I've actually been learning a lot more about some of these raids from back then and how relevant or important that they were back then, especially when it came to the raiding scene, and how some of them you had to do, some of them were mandatory, whether or not they were good or not. Even though I talked about how I didn't want to do the Battle for Mount Hyjal, I kind of do need to show, not just, because, it is sort of relevant, but it's also for me to actually show you why it is actually so hated amongst players and such. Plus, there are some things that I found out about some of these things that were going on, especially with the lore and the background of what was happening, that it actually allows me to show it to you guys better and more so. Like the one we're doing here. So, for example, before, early in the series, I showed you guys, just to use Burning Crusade as an example, I showed you Karazhan, Serpent Shrine, Tempest Keep, Black Temple, and Sunwell. But I really should have shown you all these. So, I've decided, like, today we're going to do Magtheridon's Lair. That's why we're here, because I'm about to show you the setup for that. We're going to do Gruul's Lair after that. We're going to do not Battle for Mount Hyjal after that. I've actually decided, looking, that there were some that used to be raids that are actually no longer considered raids anymore. For example, after we do Gruul's Lair, we're going to go to Zulaman. Oh yeah, and I will be showing you the Gods of Zulaman trailer for that one, because oh my gosh. Whew. So, we will do the Battle for Mount Hyjal after that. Again, let me know if you want me to redo the Noxramas video where I showed the Kel'Thuzad trailer. I could try and show you guys the Vault of Arcavian, but again, that's dependent on whether or not I can actually get in there, depending on whether or not I have, the faction control thing. I hate how that's set up. I'm going to show you guys also the Obsidian Sanctum, the Ruby Sanctum. I showed you all of these. I didn't show Barad Hold. I can go ahead and do that at Tol Barad. I can show that. There's really not that much, but I may as well show it to you guys. I showed you all of these. So that's what we're going to be doing. So today, Magtheridon's Lair. One boss raid. However, it's actually relevant and important because it really has to do with what was going on with the story here, even though it was all kind of written wrong because of the mistake that the writers made of, mistakenly writing Illidan as if he was killed Jaden. However, this was actually explained in the Illidan book before Legion came out. So, one of the things that we remember from Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne was when they came here to Outland and they overthrew Magtheridon, this pit lord who was reigning here as the Lord of Outland. And we thought he was killed. Turns out he wasn't, because Illidan had a plan. And that plan was, we're going to use this pit lord's blood to make more demon hunters to fight against the Legion. So, he had Magtheridon imprisoned here. Now you're like, where? Down here. This is something I like about this. It's hidden out of the way. It's like if many of us came from this direction, right? So we're like, oh, look at this. And then you see some of the other places that you can go into, like the dungeons for, like if you look at the map here, you'll see it lists that there are the entrances for the Hellfire Ramparts, the Blood Furnace, the Shattered Lairs. And when you do the Blood Furnace, you actually fight above the area where, Nazgul's even giving away the dialogue that happens when you beat Magtheridon here and you get his head and turn in where he goes, "The source of Illidan's fell orc army is no more. Magtheridon has fallen to the might of Resilient and his allies. The time for us to rise and strike at the fell orcs that remain is now. Do this for your war chief. Do this for the Horde." That's what happens when you do this. So, but yeah, there's going to be a point. There's a point in the Blood Furnace dungeon. If I can go back to BC here. Where you are, if I can show the map here. Here, like, towards the end, where you're fighting Kel'Thuzad here. That area, that floor that you fight him on, is literally right above where Magtheridon is being held prison. I'll even show that to you in this raid. So, what I like is that you see all this in the front, and it's like, oh, look at this. But what you don't see, and it's nice and hidden out of the way for it to be hard, unless you come back here and you see this pathway here, and you're like, huh, where's this go? There's the meeting stone, by the way. And you're like, where does this go? And you see this small doorway here. And it just starts going down into this doorway here. Now, in case you're wondering, actually, let me dismiss my guy here. In case you're wondering why I'm doing this on my Warlock, it's because he actually does drop a set piece here. Look at this set. This is a cool set for a Warlock. I would love to know if any of you played a Warlock back in BC, because, of course, we know how strong they were. Did you ever farm this place to get this piece here? Because it doesn't... It says vendor. However, if you look at the guide, when it comes to the loot that drops here, Magtheridon does drop the token thing here for a chess piece for some of the classes. If I change the filter here, you'll see he drops the chess piece for these sets for multiple classes here. So I'm hoping, because I don't have the chess piece yet, that he's going to finally drop this chess piece here for my Warlock here. Also, a lot of people came here because he dropped a 20-slot bag, which back in Burning Crusade, I'm sure was a big deal to get a 20-slot bag. That was like, yup. Like, if you needed a bag, this was the place to go. Take down Magtheridon and get that bag there. Is there any stuff I don't have? I don't have this wand. Not surprised. So, into the depths we go. I like this loading screen. Just, a Pit Lord. Now, remember, Magtheridon was actually considered one of the more powerful of all the Pit Lords amongst the Burning Legion. He was probably second to Manaroth amongst the Pit Lords. Even though it's debatable whether or not he was actually entirely loyal to the Legion, or if he was simply just wanting to basically be his own king of the mountain type. I find myself wondering, even though he would call upon demons from the Legion to aid him, if he simply didn't care about the Legion anymore, and he just wanted to be here at Outland and be like, alright, I am king of my own personal hill here. I'm good. I'm just gonna lay back and just enjoy being the king of this place. That's what some of us kind of suspect in regards to Magtheridon. So, here, of course, are the ads. Something to note is that once you go down there, because you'll see here, this is one of your first looks. Right up there is what I was talking about. You see that? That's the floor area where you fight the final boss in the Blood Furnace dungeon. And you'll hear Magtheridon actually talk to you during the dungeon run. He's aware of what you're doing. He's like taunting you as well as the others, like, you'll never contain me for long. So you'll see there's multiple channelers in here. Now, in the book Illidan, it's actually talked about that this was like part of Illidan's plan, to use this to keep Magtheridon trapped down here. So on occasion, they would come here and basically just take samples of blood from Magtheridon to use on other like Night Elves and Blood Elves that wanted to become Illidari, to become demon hunters. A lot of volunteers in that regard, that came to him after their, like in the animation from Legion on Illidan, where he talked about how many of them came to him after their families and homes had been ravaged by the Burning Legion, and they wanted revenge. They wanted to get back at the Burning Legion to stop them, and so they came to Illidan to get the power of a demon hunter to stop the Burning Legion once and for all. And this is basically what the book said that Illidan used the source of to help turn them into demon hunters, is using the blood of Magtheridon here. And I thought that was very interesting that they just went that route. Now, of course, here in BC, they were like, oh, Illidan's making all these fell orcs, And as we kind of know, that was not supposed to be the case. At least when it came to Illidan, it was supposed to basically be killed Jaden, so. But, yeah, like I said, the whole thing with, Burning Crusade was very confusing. Now, as I said, once you actually come down here and you start the fight, basically all the ads in this raid come here. So if you hadn't cleared all the ads in here before you started this fight, yeah. This is going to be interesting, how much I can showcase this off. I hope I can, because I got rid of my Voidwalker. So, but once I start this, all five of them are going to start. The gate will close, and this cube has its own separate mechanic. Now, this is something that really frustrates me when it comes to trying to really help showcase things about this raid, or just the BC raids in general. You can't be able... There's like no lore in the guide in regards to this raid, and there's nothing here, no info about his mechanics. So all you have is the loot and the model, and that's it. It's extremely frustrating in that regard. So anyways, let's start this up. Enraged, he will break free in 2 minutes.
I I am unleashed.
So yeah, here come the other ads. So yeah, this guy hits like a truck. He's basically one of those kinds of DPS check type of bosses. Yeah, the cubes had their own mechanic that you had to use to deal with the mechanic that he uses here. He also has this earthquake mechanic where I'm just kind of bouncing around here. You see that? And I'm getting disoriented, which is causing me to kind of run around on my own. I'm not really doing this movement. This is all just on my own because I'm getting, like, disoriented and getting thrown around by the earthquake.
Interrupt.
Blast Nova. I'm just getting rid of the ads here. Let's see if I can actually try and... I think the cube is used to interrupt the Blast Nova. Shadow Grasp! Deals damage every second, so yeah, people had to use that to try and, you know, help deal with them, so... Yeah.
Will not be taken so easily. And fall!
Yeah. Kind of drowned him out there. Let the walls of this prison tremble and fall! Yeah. Hey, I got it. I got the one from my class. There it is. Woo! I got the Void Heart robe. Yes! Alright. Alright, so now I just need 3 more pieces to finish off this set. And I'm pretty sure these drop in Karazhan. I know the helm drops from Melkazard Karazhan. That'll be fun. Also, in the next raid we're going to be doing Gruul's Lair, it also drops some pieces. So yeah, it drops the pants and the shoulders. So basically, like, if you're looking at sets to finish off here, and you see this first set here, and you're like, huh, what raids drop the pieces for that? It's basically Magtheridon's Lair, Gruul's Lair, and Karazhan. Those are the 3. The next set, this one here, the pieces will usually drop from Serpent Shrine, Tempest Keep, and Hyjal. So that's how they've set up some of these sets. So, you know, you would have looted, you know, obviously I got the bag, but another piece that would have been looted here, I've already been here with this character, trying to get that robe, so I already got it, where his head is a lootable item, because the idea is we've cut off his head, we've brought it to our base, and they're like, yes, we have defeated Magtheridon and have thwarted their plans to use this horrible fell orc army against us. So, what we didn't know was that we were actually kind of ruining Illidan's, interfering with Illidan's plan to help make more demon hunters to help fight against the Burning Legion. That's what was really going on, according to the Illidan book, compared to how it was in Burning Crusade, where they were like, yes, we are just, you know, stopping Illidan from making a horrible fellow comic because he's a ridiculously cartoonish evil villain, even though he's not supposed to be the, you know. Anyways. So there was another that we had to take down to help thwart the evil Illidan, you know. And as I said, that was one of the Grawn. Now, of course, this actually is a little relevant, as in regards to what I mentioned about warlords, because, of course, how many of us got familiar with the Grawn, not just here in Burning Crusade, but also in warlords, right? I mean, of course, this is not going to be the only time we're going to see Gruul, right? So we'll be heading to Gruul's Lair when we come back. Stay tuned.